So, folks, first of all, welcome. My name is Malcolm Fox. I'm with the Sustainability Consortium. I have only been here for about 2 months, and so far I've had a wonderful welcome. Thank you, members and colleagues and partners alike. My job is as Chief Operating Officer, as I see it at least, as we go about doing the revealing the science of sustainability and the translation into effective business tools and promoting the adoption of those tools for our joint mission is to build the type of business processes which are going to help us achieve further scale and of course help us all meet our collective mission that was articulated so nicely earlier today. So my background is business, and I'm a chemist and sustainability. I think it's a pleasure to organize this retailer forum today. It's actually a teaser because, as Ewan mentioned, we've got a longer session on retail tomorrow that I hope you'll all be able to attend. And I think it's fair to say, as retailers navigate some extraordinary industry changes, as well as navigating civil society pressures, demands from consumers, governments, etc., that in a sense, it's a pleasure to see sustainability part of that calculus and stay part of that calculus. And even further, for some organizations, such as those I'm about to introduce, take a leadership role using sustainability to create value and literally take leadership in the marketplace. That's been a real pleasure to witness. Like I say, we have 3 leaders today. They may have worked on improving supply chains. There may be operational sustainability successes. They may be acting as editors or curators of information for consumers. But I'll let them share their own experiences here. We actually have a small change. We have not Manuel Gomez from Walmart. We have instead Zach Fries on the end, who will be joining us shortly. In the middle, we have Andrea Bolhuis, if I pronounce that close to correct. Thank you. Clearly not. From Ahold. It's not my first mistake today. From Ahold, who's going to talk about some of her experiences. But we're actually going to start out with Carmel McQuaid from Marks and Spencer's. I'm just going to give a very short intro to Carmel, as I will to the others. So, many of you will know Carmel. She's the head of sustainable business for Marks and Spencer's. Where is Carmel McQuaid? I was introduced to another Carmel.
We've obviously met before, sorry.
Good Lord, do forgive me. I'm names to faces right. Another Carmel I meet, and I'm assuming it's this Carmel. Do forgive me.
I'm not an imposter. It is
I had a little, where was I? Alice in Wonderland moment there. Very nice to meet you. You see how well prepared I am for this session. Hopefully my boss isn't here. Whoops. So Carmel McQuaid, she works across Marks and Spencer's promoting sustainability. She has a particular focus on innovation, working with NGOs and with the many partners that Marks and Spencer's has. Carmel has a background as a consultant, in fact, and is a chemical engineer. So each of the speakers will speak for a few minutes, maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then they'll be available for questions as a group if there are some from the audience. So with that, Carmel, it's a pleasure to meet you finally in person. The floor is yours. Thank you.
We're just going to sit down.
You can sit or stand, whichever.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's great to be here, and I have waited for this day a long time since TSC was first founded to have the first members summit in Europe. Thank you. This is fantastic. I've waited for the day when there was greater alignment. Brilliant. It's so good to see this day happen. So well done to you all. This is like the world's greatest performance review, because I feel like my role today is to share with you what I've done on behalf of M&S with TSC in the last year and what we're going to do in the next year. And I think there's really the background to us as M&S, just because not everyone will know, we're a food and clothing retailer. We're largely own brand, probably 95% own brand. We have big ambitions, but we are relatively small, so we can't bang a table and suppliers jump. They kind of go, you want us to do what? Why? So when we talk about sustainability, which we've been pushing with our supply chain for a number of years, we always frame it around the business case for why they should do it. So we can never have the excuse of, we're a retailer, we'd like you to do it. They kind of go, yeah, and there's lots of other retailers we can sell our products to. So we always frame everything in the business benefits of why our supply chain should do this. And really, it started with us, I guess, before 2007, but 2007 was the year we really went large and public about it. And it's to the point the gentleman made earlier around, at some point there will be a massive shock to the system, or there'll be multiple shocks. And governments will bang the table and introduce policy. Or consumers will get really angry and decide enough is enough. And we don't like being in the situation where we have to react to things like that. We wanted to be prepared and be ready. And we didn't want to wait till 2020 when people decided what policies they wanted to do and when consumers had grown up and kind of learned more stuff. So we wanted to kind of figure out what we think should happen and learn by doing and understand how we win in the marketplace as a result of being on the front foot of sustainability. So we launched our initiative back in 2007, addressing lots of issues, environmental and social. And social is very important. Because our customers really care about people, and it's not fully in the social category, but animal welfare is also quite important to a lot of our customers. So we had a lot of initiatives already underway on deforestation, on refrigerant gases, on factory standards and dyes, you know, the usual list. And then, thankfully, TSC was born, and it started this important work of systemizing how we think about these things, codifying it, developing a global approach, looking at it from a science base. So that's been our involvement. I guess in the last year, what have we done? Two things. One, external. So we've been advocates for TSC and greater alignment in all the other initiatives that we're part of. And again, because we went quite public in 2007, and everyone finds retailers easy to find in the address book, we're involved in pretty much everything, or there's a few things that we still haven't been nobbled for. But so we co-chair the Consumer Goods Forum. We're involved in lots of retailer forums on palm oil, deforestation, etc. So farming with Cool Farm. So on an external basis, we've been advocating greater alignment because we recognise that if we can't cope with it, and we really want to cope with it, then our colleagues in the retail world all around the world will certainly never tolerate this. So for us to have the impact, we must have that alignment so that it becomes really simple for other retailers and other manufacturers to join in, because there isn't enough of us yet. We work in a global marketplace. We need all the retailers to be kind of advocating this. So that's what we've done externally. Probably more interesting for you is I want to talk to you about three types of people that I bring TSC work to within the retail world. First of them are our buyers and developers. They're product developers, they're kind of one category. The second group is our marketeers, who are the frontier between us and the customer. And the third group is our suppliers. So we'll start with our buyers and our product developers. Now, any of you who are suppliers to retailers will know these are very busy people. They are people, just like customers. They select products. They are no more complex than the consumer walking into the supermarket with a million things to do, with a budget, with lots of constraints, with no time, no real interest in understanding all the nitty-gritty. She just wants to pick the nicest product that meets her criteria. And that's what our buyers are like. And I think sometimes we've forgotten that in the quest for education and outreach and understanding. What I have heard in the last year from my buyers and my product developers is, I don't want to know, I just want you to give me a solution. And I trust you that the solution you give me is addressing the issue that I need to resolve. So that doesn't make them bad people. That is perfectly okay. And that's why the snapshot work and the tool development and making it user-friendly is so critically important to TSC. But there still is that further work that Sheila alluded to that needs to be done in the next 12 months of saying, so now we know what needs to be done. What's the solution? And can we package up into a nice little building block, to use Guido's analogy of the cathedral, so that I can hand my buyers and product developers a brick, ready-made, that says, if you need to address the factory standards that are all addressed on the snapshot, here's the brick. It's called the ABC Factory, and you get all your suppliers to do this, and it will take care of that. So that's kind of what they're asking for. And that's relatively simple. I think we're a lot of the way in that journey, and that's what we'll be working on with TSC in the next year. The second group are the most challenging, and that's why I've put them in the middle. And these are the marketeers who are communicating messages to our customers. So we've put together, over the last few months, we've put together all of the attributes that we have against our products in M&S. So we've said, by 2020, all our products must have at least one attribute. And whether it's about a factory standard, whether it's about dye houses, less use of water, farming standards, whatever it might be, they must have at least one. The only ones our marketeers understand and are prepared to talk to customers about are the things we've been talking about for 20 plus years. Fair trade, organic, those sort of things that already have connotations with customers. Now, my challenge is, customers think about environmental and social things in the round. We know most of them think fair trade is generically addressing all the good things. And I know fair trade has moved on a lot. I don't want to talk in detail about that, but strictly speaking, fair trade isn't an environmental standard. And to the points that were made earlier about, I don't like the phrase cheating, but when you present, if you're talking about good features of the product to customers and you're saying it's fair trade, the customer's head is saying, you've taken care of all the issues with that product, that's good. Now that's something that's tricky and we're going to have to address. We have to find a way where things that are boring and unsexy, like dyeing standards in clothing factories, is either recognised by customers as good or isn't recognised but is still given credit, because otherwise people will just do the things that are the cute and fluffy things that already have names. So a few options. We could create, new entities might exist that create new factory standards and get them as good a branding as fair trade have, or there might be other solutions. I don't know what they are yet, but that is a big challenge. And the biggest challenge is most of the people who are marketeers are brilliant and bright, and they don't want to cheat, well, most of them don't want to cheat customers, but they don't know. So that information about what are the material hotspots, particularly in food, needs to get to the marketeers, because at the moment they're putting pictures of farmers' faces out to customers, and customers are going, that's great, you're supporting farmers. Whereas we know actually there's a whole pile of difference between having a picture of a farmer's face saying we buy from them and actually working with them to reduce carbon, reduce water, ensure they're not breaching pollution limits. And that's something that, again, we as a leader in retailer, we struggle a little bit with. Most of our competitors get halo effects because they put pictures of farmers out there and everyone goes, are you taking care of all the things that M&S is taking care of? And it's not quite equal. So that's a challenging area, but there's still lots we can do without solving that, so I wouldn't worry too much. But we do have to address it in the longer term. The third area, the third group of people I deal with are our suppliers. And I was thrilled last night. I usually tell one story, John, of progress that I've seen over the last year. But so I think 2 years ago, I told the story of our wine supplier telling us about a solution they'd find and how we were able to quickly check TSC category sustainability profile tools and see that, yes, it was a material hotspot and therefore they could get, it was a credible solution and therefore they could meet our approval process in 2 weeks rather than 6 months, which we would have had to do before TSC. So this year, my good news story is that one of our suppliers, major supplier who has more procurement power on some of the agricultural commodities than we ever will have and that other retailers will have, sent me their sustainability strategy and asked me to comment on it. And you know, they had all the material issues covered and addressed and they were working on it. And that was brilliant because they haven't had to spend 3 years thinking about what are the things I need to be thinking about? What are the things I need to address? They were actually moving straight to the front of the queue that goes, now what are the solutions I can put in place? And these guys can really have a major impact in the market. So it is driving change at sometimes it doesn't feel like it when you're on the calls about hotspots, but actually when you've got it, a system-wide approach and greater alignment, thinking about solutions, I am starting to see a lot of change come through the supply base. But the key messages for the next 12 months are solutions-orientated rather than science of the issues and greater alignment, which has already been started and is really encouraging. Thank you.
I was going to ask a quick follow-up. Is it a trend that consumers are asking more and more for Marks and Spencers to curate on their behalf, or is that tailing off?
I think it's a debate we have raging constantly in the boardroom, and we're having it again next week at our advisory group. This issue of transparency and do customers really want to know more? I think our particular brand is customers trust us and have high expectations and expect us to be doing the right things. Unfortunately, the global marketplace, while our standards might be high, the global marketplace and the reality in which we source, bad stuff still happens. And any systems under pressure, there are bad things happening in product supply chains, and not all the issues are being addressed. So there is a tricky situation where customers will largely be horrified when they discover some of the realities of how products are made and how products are sourced and the impact products have on the environment. I know when we run focus groups with customers about cotton, they're starting, and you'll all know this, the starting position is, it's great, it's natural, I love it, it's great. And then you tell them about the impact and they're genuinely horrified. And I think that's a real challenge for a brand of how you navigate that taking people on a journey, because it makes no sense for your brand to go out of business because you were the first person that told the customer that this sort of stuff happens. You told them the truth almost, and then you get shot down for it. So I worry about it a lot, but my solution, I guess, is, for me, what is more unacceptable is that hundreds of, I don't know the numbers, but all our young people are passing through universities, studying masters in sustainability, they're going on all these courses, and they don't know it. So for me, I think we can worry about the end consumer a lot, but in the next 12 months, I'd really like to see the impact of this work getting to everyone in education, and the opinion formers, the people who are commentating, the journalists, the scientists, those people writing articles. And we can worry about Mrs. Miggins in Hull in a few years' time, but let's at least make sure that the people who are commentating with authority have the facts behind them.
Fantastic. We'll hold questions if we can till the end, but that was wonderful. Thank you, Carmel, very much. Next we have Andrea Bolhuis to speak for us. She is a specialist in product sustainability across all of Ahold's own assortment of brands. She has a background in history and development, is very heavily involved in industry programs such as UTS and the Roundtable on Responsible Palm Oil. And with that, I'd like to introduce Andrea. Would you like to speak from here or from the chair?
I'll just sit here.
Very good, excellent. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for the introduction. And Carmel, also thank you for your speech, because I can more or less throw away mine, because you already mentioned everything. Because I do want to bring you something new. So apart from, keep in mind everything that Carmel said, and then I want to share a little bit about what we did with the TSC tools and mainly with the KPIs. So that's the questionnaire that retailers can ask their suppliers. So Ahold is a retailer. We have stores in the Netherlands, Czech Republic, and the US. So it's interesting to see the differences also between Europe and the US. And we've been attending the TSC conferences in the US, and we're very happy that the conference now here is in Europe. And something that I really notice is that the audience is quite different. So in the US, it's much more business-oriented and focused on some actions, whereas here it's more about getting the details right, thinking about data accuracy. And I think TSC has found the balance between those two differences, and I think that's really great. So it's also something that we've been caring about, because we've been a member since a few years from TSC, and I like to talk with people, but we've been talking for a few years now, and I also like some action. So we've been very happy that last year we started with a pilot program in the Netherlands. So we approached a few key suppliers of ours, and we took the KPI sets for a few different product categories. And we thought, we can ask them the questions to a large set, but we can also take those questions and see, are these already perfect, or is it workable, or can we improve them even more before we go out to a larger set? So we decided, okay, the KPIs are actually quite good, but we can work with a few suppliers to improve them even more. So that's what we did. We spend a lot of time with those key suppliers to go through the questions and to see, are they relevant for you and are they answerable for you? And together we came up with a lot of feedback and gave it back to TSC. And they've been working on it for the last couple of months and now produced a new set of KPIs. We are very happy with the new set, so I want to say thank you to TSC for taking into account that feedback, and I think it really has improved the questionnaire, so that's great. So last week, we had a meeting with our steering group of the pilot. So within our pilot, we have us as a retailer. We have a farmers organization and a bank, and then we have our suppliers. And we were discussing, we've been working on this for almost a year, and we improved the KPIs, so what's next? And we came up with actually 3 things. And the discussion was a lot about implementation. And I think I really liked what Sheila said, which was, you know, are we doing this so we can go on and talk about things, or do we actually want to drive change and look at, you know, what is it that we want to do? And this is only a tool, but this is not the goal. So I think implementation is very key to identify, you know, what are those goals? Maybe it's our goal may be different from your goal or from a manufacturer goal or even some other company in the supply chain. And if we only talk about it, then I guess people won't be really sure how they're going to implement it in the end. So I think this is really a call to action, not only for retailers to start to use all the TSC tools, but also all those other companies in the supply chain to work with the TSC tools and give feedback and improve them. And I think that also comes back to a point that was raised yesterday, that the TSC tools need to be of value for the whole supply chain. And we had a lot of discussion about it, and also some critical notes. That, you know, if there are farmers or producers that see this as only another questionnaire or only, you know, collecting data for your buyer, then I guess that's not good enough. So those producers, those farmers, those supply chain actors, they need to see, okay, I'm doing this because I can improve my business as well. I can make my business more sustainable. So it adds value to those actors in the supply chain, and they don't only do it to satisfy their customers. And I think that's really key and something that TSC should really pick up. And I think it was shared also yesterday by everyone in the groups. And the alignment that Sheila was also talking about is really key for that as well, because a lot of farmers or producers or manufacturers are already working with a lot of tools, and they are already collecting data and doing things. So it would be super efficient if we can take what's already there and use that information that's already being collected and integrate it with the TSC tools. So I think that alignment is really important moving forward. And then there was another thing that came up a few times yesterday in the discussions, and that was about trust. And I think trust in the supply chain is really important if you want to move forward in the field of sustainability, if you want to get the data, if you add value to those various supply chain actors. And I think that is one of the reasons why we keep talking to each other, because that is what creates trust. At least I hope it will, so that we understand, you know, what is it that you want, and how can we help each other? How can we work together as a supply chain to improve our products and to build the trust, so that we can share data, so that we can share what we're doing and work together to move forward. So having said that, I think we are now kind of at a transition phase from our perspective, where we used to work a lot with, from a risk perspective, working on compliance of our customers, of our suppliers, sorry. And we are transitioning towards looking at where are the opportunities, how can we work more closely with our supply chain actors, and I think TSC is really the perfect tool to do that and to work on continuous improvement, to look at, you know, what is everyone in the supply chain doing, and how can we monitor and look for ways to continuously improve without with keeping in mind all those other things that are important next to sustainability, such as availability, price, and quality. So I am confident that there's still a lot of work to do, and I hope we will continue to talk, but also get some action done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for I think was an unqualified endorsement. And I know we have another 15 months to go on what has been a very insightful pilot program for TSC. We've learned an awful lot from Ahold, so thank you very much. Next we have Zach Fries, who very kindly has stepped in on behalf of Walmart for Manuel Gomez. Zach is a Director of Sustainability for Walmart. Particular work with products in the area of general merchandise, including electronics, toys, automotive, home apparel. Particular responsibility for the Sustainability Index, which is going to go through its next evolution in the next 2 or 3 months from now. I'm sure he'll be talking about that, which will be of great interest. In the past, he's been a broker for hazardous waste, as I understand, a consultant, and in product testing. He has a background educationally in chemistry and in operations. So with that, Zach, you'll be sitting there, or will you come into the podium? Very good.
I'll follow their lead of just sitting down. First off, I apologize. I have the least interesting accent up here, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm obviously from the U.S., and I can just echo that it's a pleasure to be here in Europe. I think that really TSC applaud your choice there, because it does send that signal that this is something that is more important than what would just exist in the U.S. or even TSC. It's really a broader initiative, and I want to echo what Carmel and Andrea said, because this is, and I hope that what I say isn't going to be too different, and I think you'll see that it's not, and I think that speaks volumes for the reason we're here, and the reason Walmart didn't create its own standard, and why Ahold didn't create its own standard, and why Marks & Spencer didn't do their own thing, because it's going to take the industry to do something on sustainability. And so a brief history about Walmart, for those of you that are aware of our company. I've been at Walmart about 8 years, and about 9 years ago we set off on this journey to become a more sustainable company, and it was a little bit difficult to understand what that meant for products. At the time, our CEO was a visionary in this space and for retail and for an Arkansas retailer, and came up with 2 specific goals, very aspirational for our company, to become 100% dependent on renewable energy and to create zero waste. And the third goal was to create products that sustain people and the environment. And so I thought about that goal, and I thought, well, that's a little bit more ambiguous. What does that really mean? And I think over time, we've realized that it is going to be different by product category. It's going to be different, and we needed help. We didn't have the experts in-house to work. We had operational experts, we had building experts, we had transportation experts in our company, but we didn't know enough about our supply chain. And in working with the Sustainability Consortium over the last several years, we realized how dependent we are on our suppliers and TSC as an organization to help figure out what the important things are for each product category when it comes to sustainability. So having been on the sustainability team myself for the last couple of years and involved indirectly a few years before that, specifically with chemicals, have realized the power that TSC has. And I think, to unlock the power of Walmart, we have to really speak to Carmel, to simplify it for us in terms of the buyer. The buyer is that person that makes the decisions at Walmart of what products to sell. It's based on what the customer wants, but that is really how we unlock the power of Walmart. And in order to do that, we have to meet their needs. We have to simplify things for them and make it so it's credible, which I think is the most important piece, which I think TSC meets that criteria. But it has to be easy to understand and easy to use. And if we're successful with those first 2, and we add the business impact lens at the end, then we're really going to drive this forward. And so what I'm responsible for doing is for implementing this work in our business. by working with these merchants and these buyers of product. And I can say it's not been an easy journey, and it is sometimes difficult. And Walmart likes to go head first with our with our approach, and so we at Walmart have the saying of ready, fire, aim on most projects that we do. And so when we speak of pilots, they're usually, let's pilot it with 1,000 suppliers, or let's pilot it with 1,000 stores. And so it's usually a massive implementation. But we've started off with implementing the TSC tools in 2012 with about 30% of our business. So right out of the gate, we went after our biggest product categories with the help of TSC. And over the last 3 years, we've made significant progress. We're covering about 60% of the categories Walmart sells with these tools, and with these, what I think some of the most important things are the KPIs, the key performance indicators for improvement, that we can see what the most important areas are in a product category and rank our suppliers on how they're doing against those areas. And we've fortunately been at this long enough to know that this is not great as is. We've got to get better, and we're really happy on next year's work that we've put in over this last summer, Ewan, on improving the tools to be better and making the questions a little clearer to know what good looks like, and making it so our merchants will be able to easily understand how to make improvements. And I think the simplification and a little bit more direct benefit that these KPIs are going to be able to provide should lend itself to an easier implementation in the business, and we're seeing that, and it's we're very open and transparent with TSC on what works and what doesn't, and we've seen some things work, and we've seen a lot of things that haven't, and I think that continuous feedback loop is helping drive improvement. And Guido, to your point earlier, where you mentioned there are people that are laying bricks because they see the cathedral, and some people are just laying bricks. And I think we've got to enable both, because I think we're our merchants, Walmart, we want to build the cathedral. So convincing people the reason, I think, is very important. But we also have to tell that person that at this point that may not know or need to know everything about sustainability, they've got to know what they can do to make a difference. And so it's our job to make that easy, and I think that's where we focused, is that we have some people that are really leading the way. They get it. They want to do good for the company. They want to do good for the world. And then we have some people that want us to tell them what to do. Zach, tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And the more we can shift people into that first group where they get it and they can drive it, I think the more successful we'll be. And so TSC is helping us along that journey. And again, we're not there yet, but it's about continually improving those tools, making it easier for them to make the necessary improvements. And our power lies with those suppliers, lies with the supply chain. So the merchant as the face with those suppliers is where we see is the really key leverage point. And so the more we can do to help them meet their goals, I think the more successful we'll be. So.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Zach. I have lots of questions for each of you, but I think perhaps we'll open it up to the audience as a whole. I know we have lunch that is awaiting us. We have the lady over there in the back. Do we have a microphone? Thank you.
Good morning. Yeah, my name is Carole Dubois, and I'm working for Qantas. And thanks very much for your interventions. Very interesting. Since yesterday and this morning, we talked a lot about possible synergies between TNC and the PEF pilot phase, and also because I'm here representing the PEF pilot project for the retail sector, I would like to know if for you guys who are applying already TSC approach, it would be interesting to have more this LCA-based, LCA-oriented thinking coming from the PEF. If for you in the future going towards more harmonization between TSC hotspots-based and PEF LCA-based approach would be useful for your needs in your strategies. Thank you.
Which of you might like to take that?
I'll start. So I think having understood life cycle analysis and seeing that side, and then seeing what our merchants deal with every day and what they think about, and again, kind of how to unlock that, what the right level is for our merchants. It's got to be simple, and I think we've struggled with taking it to too much detail in the past, and so I think you can see that with the how the tools of TSC have evolved from this massive database of a tremendous amount of information on every specific product to, now we've gotten it, as Sheila mentioned, the one page. If we can just get them to do one thing, we can make a difference. And so I think as we've transitioned to that, we're trying to get them exposed to something that they can easily understand and make progress on. And maybe they'll go back up to get into the deeper level of understanding. But for us, I think we're trying to start simple. And I think that that's been one of the advantages with some of the TSC tools, is that they're able to take a category approach, make it really simple, so we can actually execute it. And that's just from our retail perspective.
Yeah, I think retail, our job is to make it simple, but your job is to make it credible. When you hear us say we don't want to know about that stuff, that does not mean that stuff is not important. That does not mean that someone has to sort out the cow allocation. It absolutely has to, because otherwise we'll only get so far, and we'll have every 10 journalists competing, giving us different facts and figures. We'll have our customers confused. So it's essential that the work is aligned. It's essential that retailers don't hear conflicting messages from policy and science and from different opinion formers. But we don't have to be at the table fighting over the numbers. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can add, and I think the projects that are ongoing is really great, and it's also good to have our feedback. But it's always a balance between keeping it simple and making it credible, I think.
Thank you. There was somebody over there, I believe, had stuck their hand up for giving that chap in white. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm not sure I need a microphone, actually. Tony Masher, an independent consultant. First of all, I'd just like to say something up front, because it's the first time I've been to this venture. And it seems to me that the Sustainability Consortium and PEF together actually have the best opportunity to show world leadership, because there's no one else really trying to find a consistent message right the way around the world, because we do need a level playing field wherever we are in the world. I love the message that the Americans love decisions and the Europeans love to get it right. And the answer is somewhere in the middle. What I didn't hear from today's presentations was examples of early wins, because that's what actually helps people clarify in their minds what TSC and what PEF are all about. Have I got that wrong? Early wins.
Well, I wanted to ask something different, but maybe I first should reply to that. There are plenty of examples of companies who have been already implementing what we are preaching and getting good money out of that. We have, I cannot release the name of the company, but some companies have already been implementing the PEF and the PFCR approach, and by doing that, they cut their implementation cost by 30 to 40%, which the company is already an early win result. But now back to my question. I will try to put it again, maybe more straight. I tried to pass the message during my presentation. I agree with the consumer will never have the knowledge to take decisions, but you do as a retailer. You do have the knowledge. So why don't you take the decision for them? Why don't you start to keep out the bad products from the bench and only selling the good ones?
Maybe if I can react to that, I think that's exactly what we've been doing for the last decades. And it also comes back to my point that I think we should move from looking only at the risks and getting kind of the wrong ones out to moving to opportunities and working with suppliers that are good to make them even better. So it's a bit of a different approach. Besides, that we are obviously working to make all of our products more sustainable and looking at, where are those hot spots, and those are, I think, the early wins between the real scientific LCAs and TSC because they are combining it together to provide us with the knowledge, hey, if you have this particular product, then where should you focus on? And if you do that collectively with the industry, then you can actually make the change.
Would Zach or Carmel like to comment on this question?
Yeah, I can comment too. I mean, I think that's a good question. We've never prided ourselves on limiting the selection to our customers, but it's a good question, and we get that quite a bit. And I think we're taking these tools and using them to try to develop all of our suppliers, because if it was just about picking the winners and picking the leading products, then I think that could create some additional challenges. But we're trying to work with our buyers too, because they see through the TSC tools and through the SAP Product Stewardship Network, we rank suppliers. So you see who's leading and you see who's at the end. And our goal isn't to say, let's take those two suppliers at the end and let's cut them and let's get more product shelf space to the leaders. We're trying to push those ones at the bottom to make improvements. Now, if they don't, that's maybe a different story, but we've seen a lot from those bottom tier suppliers on, I wasn't aware of this, I didn't know you cared about this, no one's ever asked me about this. And that's the kind of thing that we like to see. You know, I would rather push those suppliers up from the bottom to the middle than I would to get from the middle to the top. And so that's the way we're approaching it, because of our scale and because of our size and the needs that our customers have. It's really difficult to limit our selection and opportunity of products, but we just see it more as a scalable way to help solve what we think the issues are.
And the last comment from Carmel, thank you.
So I think retailers, as you know, we do choice edit is the phrase, because we've only so much space on our shelf, we already select, and we select selectively. There are some categories of products where that lends itself beautifully. Electronic appliances, you know, great success, Mark. And there's a few categories of products like that where the combination of industry being able to replace it because they had the solutions with strong and good, effective policy making does result in market transformation. There are, however, some categories which are more complex, and food is a classic example where if we were to forget about the environment and think purely about health, which is costing all our countries a fortune, even trying to get customers to eat healthily when it's in their own personal interest, that's still a challenge for us. So I think I hear what you say. We've done a lot already, and we've done it a lot across categories where it makes sense. And the challenge will be to get that right balance of, and again, I think as Zach says, at the moment, we're seeing greater potential for the same product but different suppliers. The level of improvement that you can get by working with the best suppliers and encouraging the average and worst suppliers to move up is already quite something, and that's where a lot of the focus can be.
Thank you, Carmel. To the gentleman's comment with the white shirt, thank you for being our great plant in endorsing the partnership between the two. I appreciate that. I think from the comments of my colleagues on the panel here, with respect to the quick wins, we view already the fact that these fantastic organizations have embedded TSC tools and thinking into some of their business strategies itself. But I think it's incumbent upon all of us to go a bit further with respect to measuring that type of impact. And I think you'll see some of that certainly coming from our work. And perhaps my colleagues here will be talking some more about those issues at the retail panel tomorrow. We unfortunately have to wrap up. I'd like to thank Zach and Carmel and Andrea for their fantastic comments and being great partners with TSC, and to our hosts. And I believe we're heading off to lunch, where you can speak further with us.